In today's video, we'll be studying multiplication. What is multiplication? That's the question that we will be answering in today's video. One way to define multiplication is adding groups of equal numbers together. An example of this definition is 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is nothing but 3 being added to itself 3 times. We can solve this by saying 3 plus 3 plus 3 is equal to 3 times 3. This is because 3 is being added to 3 times. We can also solve this equation by solving 3 plus 3 plus 3. 3 plus 3 plus 3 is equal to 6 plus 3 because 3 plus 3 is 6 and 6 plus 3 is 9. So 3 times 3 is 9. Another way to define multiplication is by saying that multiplication is the repetition of a number a certain number of times. An example of this is 2 times 3. 2 times 3 is the number 2 being repeated 3 times. We can solve this by saying 2 plus 2 plus 2 is equal to 2 times 3 because 2 is being repeated 3 times. 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 6, so 2 times 3 is 6. Multiplication is shown as a model by drawing out a certain number of groups and the number being repeated inside. For this first equation, 2 times 4, we need to draw out 4 groups and 2, the number that is being repeated, inside. As you can see, 4 groups have been drawn as circles, and 2 is shown as it's being repeated with x's inside of the groups. That is because 2 times 4 can also be said as 4 groups of 2. My 4 groups are being demonstrated with the 4 circles, and 2 is being repeated with the 4 groups of 2. The repetition is shown with the number of objects inside of the groups being repeated. This is because we have 4 groups and 2 is the number that is being repeated in groups of 4. This is why we've drawn 2 objects inside of 4 circles. 2 times 4 is essentially 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, 2 being repeated 4 times. So we can conclude that 2 times 4 is 8. And if we do count the number of x's, we know that we have 8 x's, so therefore 2 times 4 is 8. Now let's try it with the equation 4 times 5. 4 times 5 is the same thing as 5 groups of 4. This is 4 being repeated 5 times. So I've drawn out 5 groups, represented as 5 circles, and I'm drawing 4 objects inside of the 5 groups. This shows 4 being repeated 5 times. As a whole, I have the number 4 being repeated 5 times, 4 being repeated in 5 groups. The 4 x's drawn inside of each circle represents the number 4 being repeated. I have 5 groups drawn out, and so if we were to count all the counters drawn in this model, we would know that the answer to the equation 4 times 5 is 20. Let's practice some more with multiplication. The first equation that we'll be solving is 1 times 5. Let's draw out our model for this equation. In this equation, we have 5 groups of 1. So let's start by drawing out our 5 groups. Our 5 groups are represented as 5 circles, and our 1 that's being repeated is drawn out as an X in each of the 5 groups. Now we can count the number of x's we have in each group. We have 1 in each of the 5 groups, and so we can also conclude that because we have 5 groups of 1, the answer to this equation is 5. 1 times 5 is 5. Let's solve the next equation, 2 times 2. We can start by drawing our model, and 2 times 2 is 2 groups of 2. So I've started out by drawing 2 circles to represent 2 groups, and 2 objects in each of the 2 circles because this equation shows that 2 is being repeated twice. So since we have 2 groups and 2 objects in each circle, we can conclude that the answer to this equation, 2 times 2, is 4. Let's move on to the next equation. The next equation that we will be solving for practice is 3 times 4. So we have 4 groups of 3 in this equation, so we can start off by drawing our model. Our model will have 4 groups of 3, so 4 circles and 3 objects in each circle, which is exactly what our model now shows. We have 4 groups, and we have 3 objects in each of the 4 groups. So we're showing that 3 is being repeated 4 times with our 4 groups and 3 objects in each group. So we can conclude that 3 times 4 is 12. Let's move on to the last practice equation for this video. The last equation, 5 times 3, has 3 groups of 5. In our model, we'll be demonstrating 3 groups, which are shown as the 3 circles, and 5 objects in each group, 5 times 3. This model represents 5 being repeated 3 times. We know that we have 3 groups and 5 objects in each of the 3 groups. So we can conclude our answer to be the same as 5 plus 5 plus 5, which is 15. In this video, we answered the question, what is multiplication? And we learned how to multiply with models. Multiplication is the act of adding groups of equal numbers repeatedly, and the repetition of a number a certain number of times. Hopefully this video helped for you to receive a better understanding of multiplication and multiplying with models, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!